What up, gang? It's your boy ZaZa back with another banger. Hey, today we focus on selecting female plants and how important it is to make a proper selection. Now, males can be a quite bit more difficult than selecting for females, but when it comes to male and female, they are equally as important when we think in terms of selecting properly and making your first initial choices and selections your best selections for your inbred line. And without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Get it!
Like, comment, share, subscribe, you heard me?
Yeah, you know it.
Turn up the leaf blower and the lawnmower. He smoke the sour. Should've been a hippie, should've been a shower. Bread with no dread, black top, who ya?
Another thing, don't forget to join the Discord.
All right, gang. So one of the most important, I will say the most important aspect of selection, whether it be male or female, is going to be a strong foundation. Now, how do we build a strong foundation of knowledge when we think in terms of a male and a female that we want to start our inbred line, right? If we have a potential mother and a potential father, think about the question for a second. What can we use as a tool to get more in depth on some of the history of the mom and dad? Exactly, gang. That's what I'm talking about. Your pedigree, your family tree is super, super duper important. It's so important that anytime I get a new Team ZaZa member hanging out in the Discord or joining the team behind the scenes, the first task and homework they get is to fill out a family tree, fill out a pedigree. And when I ask you to do that, it doesn't matter. It could be people, animals, plants, whatever. Whatever's generally people is the easiest way to go, right? Because if I'm let's use me as an example, right? If I'm the offspring, then I just need to fill out the previous ancestry, my mom and dad, their mom and dad, their mom and dad, so forth and so on, until we start to reach generations, right? 3 generation, 5 generation, 7 generation, 10 generation pedigree. And the reason why it's so important is because it gives you a snapshot at ancestry. And when we can look into the ancestry or take a look into the past, we can notice some of the players in the game who may have some desirable traits that we'd like to bring to the forefront. And this is why inbred line is so important. I had a conversation with one of my guys in Discord yesterday, and he asked me a question. It was a really good question, and his question was, he was like, yo, what have you ever seen a male and a female that neither one ever showed hermaphroditic traits, but all of a sudden they were bred together and now they're the offspring of Herms. So immediately I said, well, that most likely is the result of inbreeding, right? And that's why it's so important to understand the main differences between F1 and F2. So if you do an outcross of 2 different specimens from 2 entirely different families, right? No, not related at all, that is an outcross. And the resulting offspring or the resulting progeny are gonna consist of all dominant traits, a combination of mom and dad, right? In order to unlock our ancestry, in order to take a look in the past, in order to expose the recessive traits, we'll need to start inbreeding. Brother and sister, mother and father is the start of it. Mother and father is the outcross. It's the F1 generation. F2 generation is now brother and sister. And there's a reason, only one reason why we need to breed brother and sister. and that is so we can expose the recessive traits. Mom and dad are not going to expose recessive traits. Brother and sister or inbreeding, a proper inbreeding is the only way you'll be able to expose recessive traits. Now, this is why a lot of pollen chuckers get the game all confused, right? Because they are breeding F1s and selling F1s and everything seems so perfect to them, right? They don't understand. They haven't built up the knowledge yet that they need to understand that the only way you'll expose those recessive traits, whether desirable or undesirable, you'll need to start your inbred line. You need to breed brother and sister during that F2 progeny population. And once you do that, you've now unlocked the recessive traits. Remember, generation 1, hybrid vigor, heterosis, dominant traits. F2, start of your inbred line, inbreeding, recessive traits being exposed. Each one contains a large number of genetic diversity. Neither one more than the other, but both contain a large amount of genetic diversity and genetic diversity for different reasons. Super diverse because we got two parents from two different worlds coming together and creating a population of just random traits, right? That they both bring to the table, which is genetic diversity. And then you have the F2 generation where we are able to start an inbred line, expose recessive traits. All right, so once we have determined the best specimens to start our inbred line, the best female, and we're going to determine that through a pedigree. Line breeding is the concept of building a line specifically off of traits from a particular ancestor, right? So let's take, the dog is a grand champion, right? He was the best high jumper, right? And that trait is an inheritable trait, to high jump, to jump really high. It's just something that he, whether he obtained it through hybrid vigor or whether he just attained it through was inherited to him. Either way, it was a trait that was passed on through generations. So if we are able to identify where or who was the primary source of that trait, then we can introduce or reintroduce that particular ancestor into the line multiple times to hopefully reintroduce or introduce that trait into the new population. In any animal, plant, organism, whatever it may be, if it's competing for some sort of prize, some sort of competition, right? Grow off or the pie competition or the horse race or whatever it may be, right? These organisms are held to what we call a breed standard. The breed standard determines whether or not your specimen is actually a pure breed, right? These are the standards we want our community to be held at in the future. We're not there yet, but through quality, community, and education, and if we'll eventually create that pedestal that our community should be held to that standard as well. And that means registration. All strains need to be registered. They need to be attached to a family tree, a lineage, a pedigree. It needs to be a requirement. You can't walk up in a dog show and say, "Oh man, look how cute my dog. He's super cute and he jumped mad high. Yo, hold on. You got to see my dog jump." Nah, they don't want to see. I need to see that pedigree first. I need to first determine if you are carrying the necessary blood to even consider yourself a part of what we got going on. And the same thing is what we want for these strains as well. So practice now. This is how we demand changes for the better, right? I remember Rob, shout out to CLTV. Make sure y'all follow my brothers over at CLTV. I remember a conversation we had a couple years ago. Rob said, man, what do you feel about breeders walking around with a portfolio of sorts? And I'm like, man, that's a good idea. It's just another concept to upping the standard, right? We need to have a certain standard that we not only hold ourselves to, but we hold each other accountable as well. Otherwise, it's a mutt. In the dog world, we call it a mutt. If you can't show me a registered pedigree, you know, that shows all lineage and family and ancestry, then we have nothing to talk about. So just keep that in mind, man. This is the standard that we're looking to build into. If you check out you'll see small traces of it in the UK. I'm sorry, not the UK, in Europe rather. And that's seedfinder.eu, right? It's a European website, I think founded by seedsmen, if I'm not mistaken. But you got to give them credit because they are the only ones who has attempted up until this point to create a database for us. Support that database. I'm pretty cool with the owner. I try to stay in touch with him because that deserves flowers. Like, that deserves kudos. That deserves respect. Ultimately, hopefully, here in the U.S., we'll get to that level one day. But we need people who are willing to fight the good fight, man. You got to be willing to fight the good fight. And that's what's going to help change this game for the better. So we got it. Pedigree. We got the family tree. We got the mother, right? We got the female. So before we even pick our female, we are bouncing around. Start with a seedfinder.eu. Bouncing around. Go search the name of the strain. If you can find ancestry, amazing. If you can find ancestry from top to bottom, amazing. Because ultimately, you don't want to start your creation with something that has gaps and missing information in the ancestry. This is why I always stress land races and wild type strains are so important to the preservation of our community, the preservation of our product. If I start with ancestry, if I start with land race, there's no question as to tracing back, right? I could easily tell one of my customers, listen, this is Dead Ops OG. On one side, we have the Uzbekistan land race from the colder region, and on the other side, we have northern Afghanistan Baikal hash plant. It's been used to create some of the most famous and prized hashes from around the world. I have information on the local area and region, as well as some of the villages in the area, how they chose to incorporate the strain within their local area and how they use it for medicine, medicinal purposes, recreational, building textiles, whatever. It's just information that you wouldn't be able to have and indulge in and share with your customer if you don't start with a certain standard for yourself. You know, it's not always about putting the standard on other people. It's about you. If you want to be the breeder, I hear it all the time. Man, listen, ZaZa, I'm coming to you. I started off as a pollen chucker. I don't want to be a pollen chucker no more. Listen, I want to do it the right way. This is how you do it the right way. Find something that interests you. Find a female that interests you. We'll get into males after this video, probably tomorrow. But let's focus on females right now. Find you a female that interests you for whatever reason. Once you determine this is a fire female that I'm thinking is a good candidate for breeding, find two more. Find two more females. Start with a list of 3 females. Now the research begins. With that list of 3, how many of those 3, or which one of those 3, if any, can you come up and document a full pedigree all the way back to ancestry? It's hard when you're dealing with these modernized strains because there's so many gaps, there's so many pollen chucks, there's so many polyhybrids that happen along the years. But when you start from the back, you create from scratch. This is what I need you to do. I need you to understand the concept of not necessarily wanting to produce the hype or the next coolest name, but produce with preservation in mind, right? Produce with preservation in mind. How many of, I ask y'all this question all the time, how many of y'all can walk into your local dispensary and ask for a land race? How many of them are carrying land races? If your answer is 0, then that lets you know land races are on the verge of being extinct. Who better than us to take on the responsibility of preserving, of saving these strains? You the man. You want to be the breeder? This is how you do it. Help us preserve, help us save some of these land races, man. And I promise you, you're going to wake up and you're going to understand breeding from a different lens, a different perspective. You're gonna realize the responsibility attached. When it comes, I told you one day I woke up and I realized, like, man, this is not just about chucking, right? It's actually responsibility attached to this thing. And the more you know, the more responsibility comes along. I mean, that goes for religion. That goes for anything. The more you know, the more responsibility you have to do right. And much love to all y'all, man. I love y'all so much. I'm dropping a 50% off coupon code just because, man. It's going to be called Team ZaZa, man. So if you want something on the site, 50% off, use code Team ZaZa, man. As soon as I get done with this video, I'm going to add the coupon code. And make sure you hit up acinfinity.com. Use code Team ZaZa as well. That same code will get you a discount with AC Infinity. And listen, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. We need subscribers. Let's subscribe. If you're one of these guys that are recurrent viewers and you're just watching but not subscribing, do me a favor and subscribe, man. It really helps out, and that's all we really ask for, to stay within the algorithm and get this good information out there. We here to fight the good fight. And no matter what, the haters, the naysayers, I appreciate all of y'all, man. Much love to the gang. Much love to Team ZaZa. Shout out to CLTV. Shout out to the good fight that we fight. And it's all about QCE, quality, community, and education. We bring quality to this community through education, man. And I promise you, if you got a conversation you need to have with me, catch me in that Discord. I'm in there every night, man. You got questions, you got conversations, you got issues, pull up on me. I'm in there every night. Every night. Man, much love to the gang, man. Catch us in the Discord, man. Much love. I appreciate you. I'm out of here.